Good evening, folks, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting and Committee of the Whole meeting. It's my pleasure to call this City Council meeting to order, and I kindly ask our City Clerk to please take the roll call.
All right, Bruno?
Here.
Burkhart? Ruby?
Ruby here.
Caven?
Here.
Kilberg? Here. Kosarog? Maladra?
Here.
Marks?
Here.
Mayor? Here. Swanson?
Here. We begin our City Council meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to invite Keith Forsland to please lead us in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. And Keith, why don't you join us at the podium, because this is your night, man. I see you've got the superintendent giving you directions over there. Oh, this podium here, Keith. Yeah, you can have this one, heck, man.
Hello, I'm Keith Forsland. I just started working here 3 weeks ago,
3 weeks ago, yeah, that's right.
and I grew up in Elmhurst, like I was telling the mayor.
You have a cool background, though, too. Who is your track coach?
Joe Newton,
Anybody recognize that name, Joe Newton? One of the
most,
great.
most winningest coach in the country for a while. He might still be.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, he was a little 5'5" guy, but he was 10 foot in his mouth. He could yell.
He could yell.
Little
Yeah,
Marine
boy,
DI.
Spend a lot of time yelling at you?
No, but I showed up every day.
Now,
On
you were
time.
telling me that if you were late twice or missed 2 practices, you were off the team.
Unless there was a death in the family, and then he wanted to see the slip.
Good Lord.
Yeah, if people said they were late for the train, he'd call the train station, he'd call the police station, he'd do everything.
No kidding.
No kidding.
And you were a shot putter.
Shot putter.
Wow. What's the weight of a shot put?
I think it was
Ball.
8 pounds for high school.
Yeah.
And, yeah, that was a long time ago. I played football, so I tried gaining weight for football. I was only like 150 pounds, my height. I thought maybe that could help.
And York High School, right?
Yeah, York High School.
Wow.
It's changed. Even now, it's even bigger than I remember.
Yeah, it's a beautiful school, isn't it?
Yeah,
Still has that very stately look to it.
yeah.
Really cool. Now, you got a heck of a background here, Keith. Union carpenter for 18 years?
Residential roof framer, yeah,
Isn't that something?
yeah.
And you were telling me that, you were busy building million-dollar homes, then COVID hit.
Yeah, that was, yeah. 2008, I got out of the union because there was no work. And I
Oh,
became a mailman,
During the downsizing, yeah.
a rural carrier for Elgin. And that was nice, but,
11 years with the
yeah,
post
11
office.
years. And then I could make more money doing carpentry for a while. I didn't know what was going to happen, though.
Wow.
But,
And it says here, recently married.
yeah, 3 years ago, 3 years ago now. So not too recent.
Not too
Made it
recent.
longer than most people, right?
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Now, here's what I find fascinating. And I had to read this twice, and you never told me this, because I wouldn't have shook your hand. I like and I sell exotic animals, tarantulas and snakes.
Used to, yeah. A lot of my
What
friends
what
made
the
big
heck?
money. Like,
What's
90
the fascination with tarantulas?
In 1995, I went to this little reptile show in Streamwood, and this guy handed me a little blue tarantula, and I fell right in love with it. But I've always loved animals. They're easy to keep.
Tarantulas are easy to keep?
Yeah. Yeah, they're no problem. But I always liked snakes and birds and all sorts of animals.
You're an outdoors guy.
Yeah, pretty much outdoors, but I don't go camping as much as I would like to.
No?
No, maybe now.
Yeah, what the heck, man? Good Lord. I mean, you got to work with Nate, so I'm sure there's plenty of time to do that.
Maybe he'll teach me fishing.
Maybe he will. Are you going to be on the snow plows this year, too?
On some of them, yeah,
Some of them.
smaller ones.
Cool, man. Oh, so you get to do the cul-de-sacs? Is this the guy we call about the cul-de-sacs, Nate?
The left
Oh, you see, you
Yeah.
have a big one. Okay, there you go. You commented to me that years ago, St. Charles was home,
Yeah.
and now you live in Sleepy Hollow, West Dundee, that general
I-
area.
I'm from Elmhurst, and
Yeah.
when I started carpentry right out of high school, the first or second subdivision that I was on was Charlemagne, and I fell in love with this area. So I moved out here. And I've loved it ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And now you keep making your way further west, and,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
West Dundee's nice.
yeah. I live right behind Forest Preserve.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So is your address then West Dundee, or is it Sleepy Hollow?
The Sleepy Hollow sign is in my yard,
Ah,
and I live in West Dundee.
we were talking about Stephen Pickett earlier, the mayor of West Dundee, or excuse me, of Sleepy Hollow. You got to look him up, man.
Yeah?
Oh, God, you'll love him. You'll love him. He raises snakes as well.
No, does he?
No, I don't know.
I was gonna say,
I think he's a snake charmer, actually.
I probably know him if he does.
Yeah, you probably would. Well, we're delighted you're with us. And you came to us on a rather circuitous route, so it's pretty cool. You've got lots of experience.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this.
That's wonderful. You've joined, obviously, a great team.
Yeah. Everybody's been super nice to me.
So you're 3 weeks on the job and life is good?
Yeah, unlike track, no yelling.
Well, Nate Newton
Yeah.
over there, yeah. So, any comments from the council? The floor is open.
Just welcome aboard.
Oh, thank you.
We're glad you're with us, Keith.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us tonight, too.
Thank you. Have a good day.
We'll see you around, man. Item 3B, folks, is to proclaim November 26, 2022 as Small Business Saturday here in the city of Geneva. Is there a motion to so proclaim? Mr. Swanson makes the motion. Seconded by Mr. Marks. All in favor? Or, forgive me, I know, Paula, did you want to speak to this at all, or?
I can if you want
Oh, it's strictly up to you. I didn't know if you wanted to say anything about this matter or not, but. Sure.
For small, and I'm sorry, I'm
Then you
getting.
can hang,
I'm-
then you can hang out here for the next one anyway.
I know, really. I'm just getting over bronchitis, so sorry.
Everyone is under the weather.
I know, it's strange.
Brutal.
All the merchants downtown and in Geneva Commons are putting together baskets for incentives for people to shop on Saturday, on this Saturday. So it's very exciting. Take a look at it and see what you can find and give as a gift and get as a gift. So it's very exciting. They're kind of putting that together.
That's wonderful.
Which is very exciting. So it's nice.
Very cool. Any comments from the council members? The floor is open. We have a motion by Swanson, a second by Marks, to proclaim November 26th as Small Business Saturday here in the beautiful city of Geneva. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Alderwoman Ruby. Unanimous. Look at that.
They'll love that. Thank you.
Oh, my gosh, thank you. And stick around, because item C is to consider approval of special event application from the Geneva Chamber of Commerce for the Christmas Walk and Holiday House Tours, December 2nd and 3rd, 2022.
So moved.
Motion by Bruno. Wait, hold on. There's a conflict of interest here, Bruno. Why is that? Because Bruno's house is on the house tour. Isn't that something?
Your predecessor has been asking for the house, and I kept saying, not until we get the kitchen done. 27 years, we got the kitchen done.
We caught him at a good moment.
And decorating your house is,
Sentimental Gardens and all chocolate kitchen.
oh, life is good, man. Wow.
We'll tell you afterwards.
Yeah. Oh, we'll be by. Paula, the floor is yours. Anything special you'd like to share about that exciting weekend, or?
No, we're excited to have Christmas Walk
Yeah.
coming back again, and, we're here, same little Norman Rockwell evening for Christmas Walk, so we'll have the chestnuts and the singers and the carolers and Santa and the mayor welcoming everyone, so we're excited to have that coming back in. We have Bob's Candy Cane Parade as well.
Right.
So again, we'll have Santa in the visitor center this year so that people can kind of get reservations, and the minute we put it up, it's almost sold out, so it's pretty crazy. So that's really neat. Wonderful houses on the house tour, thank you. We appreciate that. We have 2 in the historic district, 2 that are on the larger side, on each side of the city, and then we have a townhouse this year for those that would like to downsize. So we're
That's a heck of a downsized
yeah,
townhouse. though. That's
it's
a-
a beautiful
Isn't it beautiful?
townhouse. Yeah, it's beautiful over by Fisher Farms. So we're excited to have a nice array of different homes this year, and the tickets are going like wildfire this year. We're getting a lot of people coming back from previous years that have
Sure.
not been here in the last 3 years. So we're excited about that.
Wow. Still looking for volunteers, I presume?
Always,
Yep,
always,
I've
yes.
signed up. In fact,
So-
I'm posted at my neighbor's house. So my neighbor's house is on Caneville
Yeah,
Road.
yeah,
the
you're
old-
right next
The big
door.
four square, so.
He's been so kind as to let us park our
You can park
cars in his
It's
driveways.
$20 a vehicle. It shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, so we're excited. Thank you for that.
Oh, my
Yeah,
gosh.
we're always looking for house tour volunteers. We have all the head hostesses, so that's great, but we're still looking for volunteers. The other thing that we do is if you would like to donate your time to a charity of your choice, we will do that as well. So a lot of our bigger groups are coming in and taking a whole house for the whole day and then donating that money to their entity. So we're excited to be able to do that.
And at $1,000 an hour, it's really quite the,
It's really very lucrative. Yeah.
very generous, very generous, so. And Santa has been provided directions again this year? Life is
Yes.
good?
Yes, yeah.
Excellent. The floor is open to the council. Very well. We have the motion, folks. We do not have a second yet on the motion. Seconded by Mr. Marks. Just for fun.
Tighten it up.
I can see the headlines now. It's Christmas cancel for lack of second. It's like, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, Alderwoman Ruby.
Thank you, everyone.
Congratulations.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Take care of yourself.
We'll see you all at the house tours and the Christmas walk.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 4, folks, amendments to the agenda. Are there any amendments this evening? Item 5 is the omnibus agenda. All items marked with an asterisk are considered to be routine and can be considered and acted upon with one motion by this body. Is there such a motion? Mr. Swanson makes the motion. Seconded by Ms. Mayer. Questions or comments on the omnibus agenda? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
All right. Swanson,
Aye.
Bruno,
Aye.
Ruby,
Ruby, aye.
Caven,
Aye.
Kilberg,
Aye.
Maladra,
Aye.
Marks.
Aye.
Mayor.
Aye.
The omnibus agenda has been approved with 8 affirmative votes, 0 nay votes, and 2 absent. We jump to item number 9, other items in correspondence. 9A is to accept fiscal year 2023 second quarter goals status report. Is there a motion to so accept?
So moved.
That was, I believe, Mr. Bruno. Seconded by Ms. Mayer. Any questions, any comments? All in favor of accepting the report as presented, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? With 8 affirmative votes, 0 nay votes, and 2 absent, item 9A has been approved by this council. Number 10 is municipal bills for payment. We kindly ask our city clerk to read the bills in their aggregate for our consideration.
All right. The bills total $3,574,809.60.
Mayor, I move that we approve and pay the bills as read. The individual items that add up to that amount can be found in tonight's city council packet on the city website.
The motion by Bruno is clear as crystal. Anyone wishing to second that by repeating it exactly, the floor is yours. It's not necessary, just a second sounds good. Seconded by Mayor. Any questions or comments, other than those presented via email earlier this afternoon by Administrator Dawkins? Ms. Clerk,
All right.
how are you?
Delightful, thank you. Bruno,
Aye.
Ruby,
Ruby, aye.
Caven,
Aye.
Kilberg,
Aye.
Maladra,
Aye.
Marks.
Aye.
Mayor. Aye. Swanson.
Aye.
The bills have been paid with 8 affirmative votes, 0 nay votes, and 2 absent. We jump down to item 12, ladies and gentlemen. presentation of ordinances, resolutions, petitions, and bids. Item 12A is to consider approval of resolution number 2022-95 for certificate of acceptance for the First Street row homes. Is there a motion? Mr. Marks makes the motion. Seconded by Ms. Mayer. Ms. Dawkins.
Okay, so as stated, this is the certificate of acceptance for the public sidewalk, parkway trees, parkway restorations, water main, sanitary sewer main, and electrical improvements to accommodate the First Street Row Homes project. A recent site review by staff confirmed that all of the referenced improvements are completed and acceptable. Therefore, it is recommended to release the remaining balance from the letter of credit supplied by the developer that covers these items. With us this evening is Director Babica to answer any additional questions.
Are there any questions for Director Babica or Ms. Dawkins? Madam Clerk, a roll call is in order. We wait the roll.
Marks?
Aye.
Mayor?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Bruno?
Aye.
Ruby?
Ruby, aye.
Caven?
Aye.
Kilberg?
Aye.
Maladra?
Aye.
With 8 votes in the affirmative, 0 votes in the negative, and 2 absent, item 12A has been approved by this City Council. Item 12B is to consider approval of ordinance number 2022-45, amending Title 4, Chapter 2, Liquor Control, Section 4-2-13, adding one Class B3 liquor license for Hacienda Real at 1602 Commons Drive, Geneva, Illinois. Is there a motion? So moved. Caven, since that's your backyard. Marks, since you'll be drinking there. Okay, there you go. That's a joke. Don't anybody read into that. Ms. Dawkins.
It's pretty much all stated in the agenda item. I would just note that a Class B3 liquor license is a restaurant with a cocktail lounge, and the Chief of Police has reviewed the background, and the license will be issued after they have obtained their occupancy certificate from the building division. And I do believe we have representatives with us.
Very excited.
So,
Do you gentlemen wish to say anything?
They're here.
You don't have to by any means, but if you do, join us at the podium. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Carlos Arechiga. This is Alvaro, family friend who helps us with all the paperwork. I own an independent restaurant group, Mexican food mostly. We're very familiar with the city of Geneva because one of my restaurants in St. Charles down the street, it's called Salsa Verde. The more we grew, the more my brothers and I decided to take the business onto different facets and phases. So right now we're playing with just more playful concepts that we're really, really proud to present to you guys. We're super aware of the high standards that you guys have for eateries and bars and restaurants. So I would hate for you to think that it's just going to be another Mexican restaurant selling margaritas. It is going to be that, but I think I'm going to take it to a level that you're going to be super proud of. I want this to be, for me, a business card of representing new doors for possible other locations. This is my 12th location. Some of them are in Indiana, some of them are here in Illinois, here in the western suburbs mostly. And other than that, I wanted to make a comment, a little bit of feedback. Because it's always me and Alvaro doing applications for licenses and things like that, we're kind of familiar that some cities are very reluctant to things like this. But just so you know, working with the city of Geneva from the time of the responses to the inspectors coming to check us out, it's been such a pleasure, and it's super cool to see towns that are so welcoming, because that's all that we need, independent brands like us to keep growing. All we need is a little bit of guidance for doing all the processes that we are aware that we need to do. We don't want to skip any of the things that we need to do, but it's super cool to work with a team like you.
Well, I know Kathleen Timoshenko has worked with you closely as well. And I don't know if you're aware or not, but we have what we call the guacamole amendment.
Okay.
So anytime,
Someone,
oh my God.
one of you shows up at Hacienda
Salsa
Real.
Verde guac is unbelievable.
Thank you. It's going to be very different. Salsa Verde is our fast casual
It's,
catering concept. We do a lot of that. And this one's going to be the kind of place that you're going to want to go on a dinner date, perhaps to celebrate your birthday, perhaps graduation, who knows. But I cannot wait to show you what I'm doing in there.
That's wonderful. The floor is open. Mr. Caven, and then Mr. Bruno.
Thank you. Well, just wanted to say welcome. Very happy to have you guys opening another restaurant and choosing the city of Geneva. So definitely appreciate that. I'm excited to come in there and see what it looks like. Do you have a ballpark for when you think the doors might actually open?
Yes, we're thinking February.
Okay.
We might have to push it a little bit more. I have a second truck, a lot of our decor, furniture, things like that, it comes from Mexico. So we work with a lot of artists and people that are creating our tables, our booths, mirrors, things like glassware, a lot of these cool things that give you guys that experience. My goal is February. We just want to make sure it's ready. When I create restaurants, the number one goal that I have in mind is always that for that 1.5 hour or 2 hours that you're going to be there, I want you guys to be able to disconnect and feel like you're in Mexico, and a little bit of a break, especially in the middle of winter. We're doing simple changes to the building, like changing the windows so that they open up a little bit to allow some of that breeze in the summertime. So little things like that, but I think February we'll be ready to go.
That sounds fantastic. If it's going to be more like Mexico, maybe you could try to bring a little sun and warmer weather in February
I will do my
as
best
well,
to bring
but
it in the truck.
If that's not able to be done, we'll take what it looks like
We'll
on
work
the
with it.
inside.
That's a
but,
special permit, Gabe, I
Yeah,
think, for that.
exactly. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Mr. Bruno, sir.
I would echo the welcome to Geneva. We look forward to it. I'll bring the family there. Which space are you in?
I'm taking over what used to be Bar Louie.
Okay, Bar Louie.
Yes, so
I
I'm
knew it
right
was
next to the Noodles
one
and
of those.
Company and a few
you-
others.
And you said this was I heard your 12th restaurant. Is that 12th overall, your 12th of the Hacienda Real?
That is correct. Thank you for that question. It's actually my second Hacienda Real.
Oh,
The
okay.
very first one was in Yorkville. It's in Yorkville. We opened right after the pandemic, and it was just such a very well-accepted concept that we decided to start growing it. I own other concepts. Close to here, I have one in Aurora called El Jefe, which is more like a wood-fired seafood
Oh, yeah, that is
place
wildly
that
popular.
is doing so well. But
Yes, it is.
we grew up with taquerias, which is the small taco place where you order at the counter. When the food is ready, you pick it up. We grew up doing that, but there was a point in time where we told my dad, if you want us to be a part of the business, you need to let us play and bringing a little bit more of what we want in Mexico. So, things like a more dynamic ambience, a little bit of music, more flair on the decor and the presentation and the drinks and all that. So,
Well, good. Thank you very much and welcome.
thank you.
Anyone else? Well, we're very excited. Now we just have to wait for the vote. You ready for this?
Do we need a drum roll?
Yeah, what the heck, man? It's kind of nonchalant, it's like not even exciting anymore. It's like, what the heck, man? Madam Recording Secretary / City Clerk / whatever the heck you are tonight, please take the vote.
Okay. Caven,
Aye.
Kilberg,
Aye.
Maladra,
Aye.
Marks.
Aye.
Mayor,
Aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Bruno,
Aye.
Ruby.
Ruby, aye.
With 8 affirmative votes, 0 nay votes, and 2 absent, the license has been approved.
Thank you, everyone. We can't wait to see you.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Item 12C, folks, consider approval of resolution number 2022-96, rejecting bids for Delnor and Kesslinger Substation Maintenance Project. Is there a motion? Marks and Mayor. And now Dawkins.
Okay, so bids for the substation maintenance contract were opened on October 24th. 3 bids were received, 2 of which exceeded the planned budget, and the third bid was found not to be in conformance with the bid specifications. In light of the prices received, the recommendation is to reject all bids. The project scope would then be reevaluated and rebid later this year. If you have any other additional questions, we do have Superintendent Holton with us this evening.
Any questions from the dais for the superintendent regarding this request? If not, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
All right. Marks,
Aye.
Mayor. Aye. Swanson,
Aye.
Bruno,
Aye.
Ruby,
Ruby, aye.
Caven,
Aye.
Kilberg,
Aye.
Maladra.
Aye.
With 8 votes in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 2 absent, item 12C, which is to reject the bids for the Delnor and Kesslinger Substation Maintenance Project, has been approved. Item 12D, consider approval of ordinance number 2022-46, granting a variation to increase the allowable lot coverage from 40% to 53.54% for the property located at 729 Hawthorne Lane. Is there a motion? Mr. Marks makes the motion. Second. Seconded by Kilberg. Ms. Dawkins.
Okay, so the property consists of a single-family home with an attached two-car garage located within the street yard setback. The applicant is seeking to replace the driveway, renovate and repair the existing front porch, remove and replace the existing paver walk and stoop along the south foundation, remove and replace the existing flagstone stepper path, cover the existing concrete rear porch, and install a stone masonry outdoor fireplace, which would be located upon existing pavement. Most of the improvements are needed due to the deteriorating conditions of surfaces. The existing slope of the driveway also causes stormwater to pool on the pavement. The existing lot coverage of the subject property is 13.75% beyond the maximum 40% permitted within the R3 residential zoning district. The overage on the permitted lot coverage likely took place during a significant remodel of the property in July of 2000 that included the addition to the existing home, a replacement and addition of the two-car garage, and expansion of a second driveway. Now the property owner is seeking to repair and replace a significant amount of existing impervious surface upon the lot, but will need to be granted a lot coverage variation in order to do so. At the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting on October 27th, the Commission unanimously recommended approval of the requested variation, subject to a condition that all removed grade-level surfaces, for example, driveways, walkways, patios, but not entrance stoops and porches, or vertical surfaces such as retaining walls, are to be replaced with permeable pavers material in order to mitigate existing stormwater runoff impacting the property and surrounding neighborhood. And again, all of this information was in the packet that you saw this evening. The applicant's representative is present with us this evening. We also have City Planner Chayton True online, so if you have any additional questions, either of those parties would be happy to address them for you.
The floor is open to council members who might have a question for either of those two gentlemen. Mr. Kilberg?
I had just one question in regard to the reported flooding on Geneva Creek. Can anyone comment on that, if we've actually witnessed the level of flooding that this resident on Shady Lane has pointed out?
Mr. True, are you able to answer that?
Yes, I'm here, but I have not personally seen any evidence of flooding. I don't know if, I know Rich Babica is present. I don't know
Yeah,
if
I was
there's
gonna
anybody else from Public Works and the engineering department that's witnessed any flooding caused in that area. But obviously that public comment, that neighbor has brought that issue up.
Rich, do you have any knowledge of that? And certainly I can ask the landscape maintenance, or excuse me, landscape architect, forgive me. And you have none, sir?
No.
Okay.
I've been with the city about 8 years, and when I first started here, there were several instances of Cheever overtopping. That was primarily due to debris between Cheever and north to the discharge of the Union Pacific parking lot. Staff spent a good amount of time cleaning that area out, and now it's one of the problem areas or trouble areas that we monitor during anticipated heavy rains. Since that time, I'm not aware of any, and this is going back at least 5+ years. So somewhere between 5 and 8 years was the last time that I saw it myself.
Thank you.
So in the May storm that we had in, I guess that was 2020 now, right?
Yes.
Cheevers didn't flood then, that you're aware of?
We did not, I don't have any personal recollection. I was primarily out on the west side at that time. We did have surcharges throughout the city where we had water going through the overflow routes as designed.
Okay, that's all I had, thank you.
Anyone else from the dais? Alderwoman Ruby, anything? Okay. We have a, oh, excuse me, Ms. Mayor?
So we're voting on the motion that includes the permeable pavers, and that's acceptable to the applicant. Okay.
It's a condition there too, in fact, so. Marks made the motion, Kilberg made the second. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Marks?
Aye.
Mayor? Aye. Swanson?
Aye.
Bruno?
Aye.
Ruby?
Ruby, aye.
Caven?
Aye.
Hilberg?
Aye.
Maladra?
Aye.
With 8 votes in the affirmative, 0 votes in the negative, and 2 absent, item 12D has been approved by this council. We jump to item 13, folks, public comment, new business. Is there anyone joining us tonight other than these two guys? Any comments? Anyone online, Ben, Stephanie? New business from the dais. It's a tough crowd. How about a motion to adjourn the city council meeting? Mr. Marks makes that motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. We are adjourned, folks. Give us a minute to transition to the committee of the whole. Microphones are off.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. Committee of the Whole meeting, Monday, November 7th, 2022. My name is Gabriel Caven. I am one of the representatives of the 4th Ward, along with Amy Mayer. All present except Kasirag and Burkhart. All 8 other are in attendance, here or virtually. First item of business, recommend suspending the rules to permit Councilmember Caven to chair this meeting and to vote on all action items on this agenda. Do I have such a motion? So moved. Marks? Second, Mayor? I don't need to vote on it. All in favor. Okay. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 8-0. Item 3, approve special committee of the whole minutes from October 10th, 2022, and regular committee of the whole minutes from October 17th, 2022. Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Bruno?
Second.
Second, Swanson. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Approved 8-0. That brings us to items of business. 4A, consider approval of draft resolution authorizing execution of a contract with municipal well and pump at a cost not to exceed $258,210.00 for well number 6 rehabilitation. Do I have a motion? Mayor? Second, Marks? Stephanie?
Okay. So well number 6 is a deep well located at 2327 South Street. Rehabilitation is recommended due to a decline in productivity from 1,200 gallons per minute to 800 gallons per minute. 3 bids were received on October 17th, with the low bid provided by Municipal Well and Pump out of Wisconsin. The last time the well was rehabilitated was in 2016. 7 years between rehabilitation is consistent to what staff has seen in the past. And again, we have with us Director Babica, if you have any additional questions.
Any questions? Mr. Kilberg?
I had a question for Rich, if he
Yeah.
would be so kind. Does this have anything to do also with the water table and the aquifer in the area? I mean, is this an indication of more than just the fact that we've got this a lime buildup,
Not that
or an iron buildup, I'm sorry?
we're seeing at this time. We closely monitor, in conjunction with the state of Illinois, the aquifers throughout the region. But this is just seen, for now, it's being treated as an isolated incident with this well.
What would be the approximate depth of this well? I mean, Is it fairly consistent across the city of Geneva as far as depth?
No, the wells, we have combination of shallow, what some would consider a medium well, and then deep wells. I could get that information out to the city council tomorrow.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 8-0. That brings us to item 4B, consider approval of draft resolution waiving competitive bidding and authorize execution of a contract with Municipal Well and Pump at a cost not to exceed $31,990 for well number 8 treatment process. Do we have such a motion? Marks? Seconded by Mayor. Stephanie?
Okay, so well number 8 is a shallow well located at 597 South Peck Road. For the past several months, staff has noticed a decline in the pumping level of the well. In consultation with Rimpey Sharp engineers, chemical rehabilitation is recommended. Chemical treatment is a common method of breaking up iron, bacterial, and other minerals that are clogging the gravel pack at the base of the well. Staff was not aware of the problem at well number 8 when the project for well number 6 was advertised for bids. Municipal Well and Pump out of Wisconsin will be mobilizing for the rehabilitation for number 6 and has provided a quote for the chemical treatment of well number 8. Staff is recommending approval of the quote for the chemical rehabilitation due to the reduced cost of mobilization since they will already be in town. The cost to rehabilitate will be paid for within the existing budget and will be reflected in a future budget amendment if required. And again, Director Babica can answer any additional questions, or try to.
Any questions? Does not appear. We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 8-0. This brings us to item 4C, consider draft resolution executing 7th Amendment to Agreement for Sale and Purchase of Electric Capacity and Energy with WM Illinois Renewable Energy LLC for the years 2023 and 2024. Do we have such a motion? Mayor makes the motion, Marks the second.
Okay, so the current contract between the City of Geneva and Waste Management Illinois Renewable Energy LLC for the output from the landfill gas electric generation facility located at Settlers Hill expires on December 31st, 2022. Negotiations with Waste Management to extend the agreement for sale and purchase of electric capacity and energy for the years 23 and 24 have resulted in a tentative agreement that was included in the agenda packet for your consideration. We have Superintendent Holton with us this evening to answer any additional questions.
Questions or comments? Mayor?
I saw in the packet that our cost for the electricity is going up 20%? What is-
Yes.
And then again, the next year?
No, it's the same price for 2023 and 2024.
Okay.
Right now, we're paying $32 a megawatt hour, starting January 1. If we accept this, it'll go to 42. It'll stay there through the end of 2024.
And 42 is more in line with what we're paying for our other energy, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Kilberg?
Do we have any projection on its longevity as this is a source? I think it's in, we all know it's in decline. Do we have another 5 years or 10 years?
I think if we get another 5 years of usable output out of it, we'll be doing good. It's the output's dropping off
So
relatively fast, so.
this is about, what, 5% of our source?
I should know that off the top of my
5 or
head.
6%?
Yeah, 5 or 6%.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 8-0. This brings us to item 4D, consider draft resolution establishing basic parameters for a public-private partnership and redevelopment agreement to induce a mixed-use commercial residential building at 122 East State and 130 East State Street. Do we have such a motion? Mayor makes the motion, Marks makes the second.
So I'm actually going to turn over the microphone and introduction to our Director of Economic Development, Kathleen Timoshenko.
Oops. I think I'm going to need help from the back room because I don't know how to change the screen. Thank you.
Oh, gotta get it up.
Thank you. Kathleen Timoshenko, Economic Development Director. Tonight, what we're going to do is introduce a project to you that is in the preliminary stages of planning. And we have identified that in order to move forward, we will need to look at TIF assistance. So what we have tonight is we've divided a presentation into two parts, and the first part will be presented by the applicant and the second part by me. So I'd like to invite our applicants up to the podium to begin the presentation.
Hello all. My name is Josh Voigt. I am part of the development team. This is Steve Cherico, part of the development team as well. He's also part owner and founder of Great Western Flooring, who will be an anchor tenant in the project. We'll go through that in a second. So, Kathleen, do I just? Spacebar. Thank you very much. So really quickly, I'm going to give the general overview and just concept of what we've come up with here. Steve's going to go into a little bit of the background of Great Western, and then I'm going to pivot back to a similar project that we did in Naperville. And have you guys seen this yet, or no? Okay.
No.
All right, so then I'm going to start at the very high level here. And I'm going to go into the location in a second, so bear with me. But it's a mixed-use development. We're looking at 6,000 square feet of ground floor retail, 2 floors of multifamily above it for a total of 12 multifamily units. The location, I'm going to jump past that. The location is Christian State. It's directly parallel to the Dunkin' Donuts. We can pivot back to a few of the salient details of the project. Great Western is, and again, I'll defer to Steve on all this stuff, but Great Western is going to be an anchor tenant. They're going to consume about 65% of the ground floor retail. Another 2,000 square feet of that retail will be spec retail. Above it, the concept is 2 levels of multifamily. Again, total of 12 units, a mix between 8 one-bedrooms and 4 two-bedrooms. Right now, what I'm going to propose and what we're going to show you from a layout perspective does not contemplate this, but at this stage of where we are in the development, we are considering 1 affordable unit per floor, and we can walk through that in the layout of kind of the design and the concept. But current zoning, I'm not going to touch on, we can move on that, but what I want to just kind of give you is why we're doing this, what our thought process, what our thought process is, and why this site we think makes sense. So from a mixed-use perspective, we're seeing to the north commercial uses on State Street. To the south, we see residential development. From our perspective, the frontage of State Street works really well for retail. Again, we're a team. It's the same development people involved in Great Western. He's an owner, I'm not, my wife is. We'll go through again that in more detail in a second. But why this makes sense is because of that dynamic between its surrounding uses of both being very busy on State Street, high density, high traffic flow, attractive to residential, or attractive to commercial. But the proximity to downtown is amazing. The walkability, the potential views that we may garner from the site into the river, we think it's a perfect location for that complementary mixed-use feel. So really quick, just on kind of a draft conceptual site plan. What you're looking from the bottom of the page here is State Street. the building would abut to State Street. The parking, the predominance of the peripheral land will be blocked from any elevations from the front. And that's totally by design. And we're going to go through design in a second, but the concept being Great Western is built around design. It's a flooring, finish, hard surfaces company. The way that we're approaching this development is from a branding component. It's from a representation of what Great Western is. And it's something that, I don't want to say is a bit more thoughtful, purpose-built, but the elevations, the interior components, the fit and finish of this product is going to feel different. It's going to look different from anything that Geneva has seen. And we're able to do that from a cost efficiency standpoint because of the synergies between the development team and Great Western. So really quickly, this is conceptual. Going over where we are on the development side, we've scratched the surface. We've focused on feasibility. We've done preliminary site engineering, but at the same time, we're not at a stage where everything is fully baked. We're probably a year out from shovel ready, and we're looking for you all support relative to the concept, the design, if this fits in to what the city's overall objectives are in that area. And we believe, again, subject to minor details and changes, but we like that the building sits on top of State Street. We like the design elements of this. We hide a lot of the balconies. We want a very cohesive look to the elevation. We want to make this a destination, and it's going to be a destination for Great Western. It's going to be a destination for the residents that live there, and it's going to be something that's intended to be distinctual, not stick out, but be distinctual in the way that it looks. So a lot of the elements that we've incorporated in the Naperville design, which we'll talk about in a second, are incorporated here. You may see reclaimed brick here. The building may be looked to be presented in a fashion that it's older, it's been there, it's been restored, as opposed to something that's brand new and it's got different product types that you would otherwise attribute to something new. So I'll pause there for some quick questions, otherwise I may just jump into what we did in Naperville to give you a little bit of the contrast to this building.
Does anybody have any questions at this time? Mr. Bruno?
Thank you. Thank you to this point. I know it's very conceptual, but the plan views that you had, this will be elevated, is that right?
It will be. So the grade of the lot today, it's a down gradient, significant. And what we would do here and what you're seeing if you're paying attention to that first floor is that is parallel, that is flat, that is built up. There is no downgrade. So one of the challenges to the development, we can kind of talk about the TIF and the importance of that and some of the challenges to the site, but one of the big challenges is the gradient of the lot. And that goes from a drainage perspective, and it also just goes from the fact that this is a very substantial grade from the top to the bottom of the elevation. But we intended to keep that consistent and build a retaining wall next to what would be the attorney's office in order to maintain that grade.
Okay, so the building wouldn't follow the grade?
It would not.
Okay. Could you go back a click or two?
Sure.
There's that one there. I can't read the text in the lower right of that space there, under building section.
Building section, okay, so that grade does reflect an older version where you're seeing in the bottom right-hand side, residential / lobby / amenity. Okay. And you'll see that was the compensating effect of the grade, and that initially was done for cost-saving purposes. That's not contemplated here. We did not go back to engineering to get that redesigned. So what you're seeing there is first floor commercial that will extend parallel and have no grade difference between where it starts and stops. The other important aspect of this, I get a lot of questions around height of the building. The contemplated height is 37 feet. You will not see any utilities on the top of the building. There will be a decorative parapet wall, but it would top out.
Sorry. So you're saying is this a cheaper way to develop, you said?
This would be a more cost-effective way to follow the grade However, it potentially would render the commercial space off to the right, the spec commercial space, more or less non-revenue generating. So we would have to turn that into an amenity. And the only way that we've been able to figure out the most practical approach is to utilize all square footage.
Okay, thank you.
So really quickly then, I'm going to show you, and I'm going to skip that, Steve, we can come back to that in a second, but this is the actual building in Naperville. Similar concept, we came in with about 4,500 square feet, Great Western Flooring, anchored that property. To the left, you'll see it is a dental practice. That dental practice was not part of this development. It was spec retail or spec office, and that did come in at a later date. The building is 8 units, slightly smaller, but again, it goes to the fact that lighting is a big thing. Our elevation, and I think the presentation of this building is the reason, why we're pitching and caring and being more thoughtful about what this looks like. Great Western is a showroom down there. Their design components are all throughout this building. Their designers are the ones that did the fit and finish to the interiors, which I'll show you in a second. So this building, I think, it sticks out. It's distinctual, but it's intended to. And I think initially, we garnered a fair amount of support from the neighboring residential uses all directly behind. Behind this structure are mostly $1 million homes, and we share an alleyway. The impact to that neighborhood has been almost zero. So those folks support us now. There was a few outliers that totally understood, had questions, but to the day, it's been well received within the community and within the immediate neighborhood behind it. I'll skip that for a second. I'll let Steve speak to the showroom. These are what the residences look like. The finishes are nicer. These aren't image pictures. They're staged. Like I said, natural light, incorporating big open spaces, modern finishes, and focusing on truly a beautiful place to live.
These are actual units. They're beautiful.
So these have been 100% leased since we opened. One last thing before I leave, because I failed to mention. Conceptually speaking, the fit and finish here will be similar. The objective here is to keep rents within a range we find to be on the more reasonable range. Right now, those pro forma rents are in the low 2,000s on a one-bedroom, all the way up to about $2,900 on the high end for a two-bedroom. Whereas Naperville starts a couple $100 higher on both sides. Naperville's over about $3,250, $3,300 on a two-bedroom there. So again, I'm going to pivot back here. We can pause for a second if there's any other questions, but then Steve, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about Great Western and its history here.
Sure. Well,
Anybody else have any other questions right now? No, please go ahead, sir.
all right, good evening. My name is Steve Cherico. Thank you for allowing us some time to speak to you this evening. I appreciate it. I'm the owner and the founder of Great Western Flooring. These two beautiful girls up here are my daughters, my two oldest daughters, and they currently run the company, and they have for the last 8 years. Actually, Great Western Flooring, Josh has been speaking like you all know about us. You probably don't, but we've been a member of the community. We've been on the border of Geneva and St. Charles now since 1988. For about 10 years, we were in Geneva. We followed Walgreens when they separated from the Dominics, which vacated. They moved into Geneva. We moved next to them, and then because of space needs, we moved back into the building that the Dominics was in. And we've been there for about the last 15 years. But so yeah, we've been around since 1988 as a family-owned business. We have about 20 employees. We are a destination business. So people will come to us for our products because we have exclusive products, and it doesn't really matter if we're like a little bit inconvenient to get to, but that's kind of our clientele. So, but we're also a very low traffic business as well. We don't generate a lot of customers every day, sadly sometimes, but but that's just the nature of our business. You know, every ticket's a higher end ticket, and maybe there's 20 or 30, the most, I would say 30 customers in a particular day. So throughout a day, that's not a lot of traffic or parking needs. But we have a brand, and our brand is important to us, and we've been trying to really make sure that we focus on that, because as a destination business, people have to have a reason to drive to you, right? And this is one of the reasons that we think that the east side of the river in Geneva works for us. We understand the risks. We know that's one of the reasons that this property is vacant, is that it has been trouble to have traditional sales tax generating businesses locate there. But again, we are very comfortable with the fact that this is the type of location that would work well for us. We have all the things that we need, and so we're very confident in it. In terms of our business as a corporate partner or a neighborhood partner, this particular site, being the transition between the business district and the residential district, is really a perfect scenario for Great Western Flooring. We're a design center, so we don't have any noise, we don't have any smells, no lighting, we're not open late.
No deliveries.
No deliveries, no traffic, very little parking and traffic needs. This is a really good fit for a neighborhood business, and it has worked out really well in where we did at Naperville as well, but this is I think, even better site because it's closer to the downtown. So we're very excited about it, but it does have challenges. We understand that we still need to be able to rent that second unit, and we understand the challenges of doing that for whatever reason on the east side of the river, you know, for sales tax generation companies. But we're confident that we can get a company that is synergistic with our company, like a cabinet company or plumbing or some other sales tax generating business that will really provide that base for this area to start to prosper. And like any time you have an investment in an area, there's a halo effect. And I believe that this will be the type of project that will provide that halo effect in this immediate area to start really bringing this area back up to its full potential, which I think is really much greater than what it is today. So,
Yeah, where are we going?
one of the things I wanted to just mention about this is that, you know, and Josh touched on it, and we're going to try to do the same thing with this building here, is we really want it to look like an original building, a building that had been there for as long as the city, but just repurposed. And it really did that. And the one in Naperville, we've been going back and forth about red brick, white brick, or red brick. And I like the white personally, and that's what we showed you. We have another version that's red, but that we haven't gotten there yet. But the bottom line is we want this to look like a building that fits into the neighborhood and the community, and I'm really confident that it will. But this particular project does have challenges, and between the site, the challenges with finding a retail partner that will succeed in that location, and the off-site improvements that will require us to work with IDOT and those issues. And I know that the Dunkin' Donuts is probably a pretty good case in point of that it's not easy to get all that stuff done. So we do have some issues with it. So we'll need some help if we're going to make this work. So.
Thank you. Anybody have any other additional comments or questions at this time for either gentleman?
Okay.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Kathleen, I'm happy to help too, and as a, so.
Do you want to take this?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So we'll look at the second part of the analysis, but we could definitely circle back to have any questions after that. So we do have a request for assistance before us, And this is in the Geneva Fox River TIF, which was established in 2016. It seems young, but it's not too young with respect to future increment projection ability. The project area is commercial and residential. It's got the public open space along Fox River. It's about 84 tax parcels, 47 buildings. And every TIF plan, as we're putting together the plan, the city council establishes goals and objectives. So the goals of this TIF district are to reduce and eliminate conditions that qualify it as a conservation area. And those main conditions were lack of growth in EAV, deterioration, vacancies, and inadequate utilities. And so the goal of putting the TIF together was to be able to provide a mechanism to support that public-private development, to bring forward the vision of what we believe that the east of the river area could accomplish. We want to really strengthen that area as a neighborhood-level commercial and residential district, and top priority to try to improve connections between some areas west in the downtown and the Fox River, and the east side to the Fox River, and have more of a congruent connections. So some of the objectives of the plan are to redevelop vacant and underutilized properties, rehab existing buildings. That's not this property, but it definitely is a redevelopment of vacant or underutilized property. To enhance the streetscape and landscaping, just to improve the image. Part of that is with, in cooperation with the East State Street project that we've been working on for many years. Repair and replace public infrastructure that's aged and also underutilized for the underbuilt for the projected uses. Support goals and objectives of our overlapping plans, specifically the comp plan, the downtown plan, and to provide opportunities for locally owned and minority-owned business, job training, and increase employment. So these are the objectives that we put forward when the plan was adopted. And then how do we get there? What are our strategies? There were 4 specific and integrated strategies that talked about leveraging the public resources to stimulate private investment. And those strategies are really met with this project, and they include redevelopment of vacant and underutilized sites, property assembly, demolition, site prep, encourage private sector activities, and implement public improvements. So we definitely have a project before us that checks a lot of boxes in our planning document. And we've already overviewed the location, but I wanted to show you this picture so we can remember what was there. Because the property was assembled in 2017, and it was cleared of structures. One was moved and one was demolished in 2018. So a lot was really put into those 2 vacant lots that we see as opportunity site. So again, high level, one of the things that we started out doing with this project was inviting the developer and their team, their engineering team, their architecture team, to come to our initial development staff meeting and our concept plan review. And one of the things that we do there is we try to vet all the costs and understand what all of those utility costs are and what are the underlying costs of the project for a developer to determine whether they're ready to move forward or to try to identify those things why they possibly can't. So in a TIF district, costs that are eligible are generally not any new building or new construction costs. So you have opportunities to look at some of those site work. So these are kind of the high-level categories of costs. They do have a more detailed preliminary pro forma, but we try not to put some of that into the public record. So they have preliminary costs that are in excess of 15 per square foot, which is pretty high, and they've identified a gap in excess of 1.4 million. Those extraordinary costs are really related to the site assembly because of so much work that the present owner has done to assemble the site and ready it and carry it. And then there's utility upgrades. There's some significant extensions that have to be done for both electric, storm, sewer, and water. And then there's storm water management, which has not been done for these sites prior. And so TIF assistance is requested to close that gap. And like I stated earlier, those eligible expenses would be acquisition, the site work, there's going to be off-site easement costs, and then professional fees. So again, this really check, and checks our TIF goals and objectives. So I wanted to show you this slide again just as a review of, this really does meet our objectives, and it's also a locally owned business, and it increases employment. It helps us replace public infrastructure, enhances the streetscape, and of course, the biggie, developing an underutilized property. Again, we have providing new infrastructure, providing that important infill development to straighten the existing business core and to improve those co-tenancies, that mixed use and that kind of perfect blending of a business that can be right in that transitional area. Providing a balanced tax base, major retail area, it helps us to protect that and grow it. We're bringing forward a high-profile opportunity and a high-profile opportunity site. Creates new jobs and increased revenue, because it's not just the sales tax. I mean, it's not just the property tax, but there's a great opportunity for sales tax, and that is not planned to be used to incentivize. So that would be completely going into the city's general coffers, because the TIF sales tax is not held in any other special fund. So the base EAV right now for the site is 102,101. To date, the site has only generated a pretty small amount of increment, and there's been no increment since 2018, when those structures were moved and demolished. So we're actually under the base. So this property is just really kind of dragging for us. The projected increment for the proposed development is expected to likely cover the incentive request, depending on how quickly the development occurs. So there's been conversations with the assessor to understand what the assessment would be. And we believe we can cover it in the increment, but again, it's when and how quickly we get this moving, because the TIF only has a certain lifespan, and we've used some of it with a TIF that's formed in 2016. So then again, like I said earlier, the sales tax is all on top of that, and that would be not proposed to be used for the incentive. So right now, the framework is like an 80-20 private to public investment in the site. So outside of our plans and our documents that talk about this, I just wanted to take an opportunity to talk about why we should induce this development. Again, opportunity is so key, because sometimes you have one party and the other party's not at the table, and you have a willing seller and a willing buyer, and that is a big deal, especially because the person who purchased the property and assembled it thought that they had a plan for it, and that plan has not come to fruition, and we've kind of been waiting for it, and trying to work to move it forward, but it's really hasn't for a number of reasons. So, the property is not listed on the market, but the owner is willing to sell it to this developer. We have an opportunity to create the public-private partnership and secure new construction in TIF 3. There has not been new commercial construction on State Street since 2012, when Munchie Peas was built. This is a big deal for State Street, for the TIF. The scale seems to be meeting what we've heard from the community of what they would like to see in height and bulk. And that is an important component, as we all know, from all of our experience looking at everything that has been proposed the last few years that has not met that threshold. The developer will consider affordable units. We've talked to them about them. I know they've had some conversations, and they're looking at those rents levels and trying to work to figure that out into the pro forma. This is also pretty good timing with our East State Street road construction, and again, the age of the TIF and our opportunity window. The developer and the business has proven success in the community, and that is a very big factor of Great Western Flooring being somebody that has a lot of customers in our area, customers which will be very happy to visit the new destination store. We look at highest and best use also. The present owner had acquired the property, thinking that it would be a townhouse development, but, is that really the highest and best use? Is there a commercial use? And just building the townhouses might be something that is very nice, but is it going to meet our goals of bringing more retail to the frontage of State Street and helping us to connect the positive retail that we have there? And we've kind of got this missing area. The townhouses won't do that. So I would argue that they really aren't the highest and best use, and we're seeing that right now because they haven't come to fruition, and somebody else is coming to the table for that, for an alternative development. When you look at inducing a development, you have to take into account that part of what the inducement is doing is helping meet the goals of the scale. We've heard this from developers over and over, that I've got so many costs to have to prepare the site. My utility costs, my utility extensions, those are numbers that don't move whether I do 50 units or 100, and we hear a lot of developers talking to us about those costs being to a point where they need more units to justify them. And so when we're talking about inducing this development, we're also trying to induce the vision and help bring forward the vision of the scale and less density. So, we could say, no, there's no inducement opportunity, and the developer could say, okay, goodbye, this isn't our right site. But they could also come back and say, okay, we can do 4 stories now. If you let us have 4 more stories of residential, I can absorb those costs. But again, is that really what we want to see? It's not what they want to build. I don't believe it's what would be compatible for the transitional area. So I think that it's important to consider an inducement to be able to develop at the desired scale. That seems to be something that we would like to support. So what are the next steps? So what we're asking for some general feedback and consensus that this inducement doesn't seem to scare us. This amount seems to be something that we're willing to look at. And we would like to pass this inducement resolution to say, here are the parameters for development. Please, everybody take the next steps and move forward. And what are those next steps? So the developer will secure the contract for the property acquisition. They've been under contract before. They are near to contract again, so it will not be of issue if this project is supported. Once that is completed, the inducement resolution will be forwarded to City Council for an action. Then the project plans will be completed, applications will be submitted to Planning Zoning Commission. It will require a comprehensive plan amendment and a change to zoning and possibly some pretty minor site plan variances, but they may not be possible. We've talked about maybe working to avoid them or to lessen them, so we'll have to work on that some more. The PNC hearings will take place and be completed, and then, given the input from the commission, the budget will be finalized, and at the same time, the city will be working with our attorney to draft the redevelopment agreement and finalize that. Then we will bring the redevelopment agreement back to the COW. And, in between that step is the time where we send out information and invite the city council members to come and meet with us one-on-one to talk about any questions they have. So that would be the step between 5 and 6. At that time, we're coming back with the redevelopment, with the hard numbers and more information about those costs. And our resolution, though, is kind of capping what we will be providing for. And then the city council would review the redevelopment agreement and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation and take final action. So we're here today to request that we take the next step and encourage and induce the developer to keep going. They have been looking at this site for a while. They have some moments of pause, and I think it's because of the gap, and we want to try to encourage them to move forward with this inducement.
And if I could just add, I think, and thank you all for listening, and we've consumed a tremendous amount of Kathleen's time, the mayor's time, and the reason being is that we are not a public home builder. We're not a Marquette, we do this in our spare time. I'm a full-time commercial real estate banker. This is how I got into the business. I do side building, but this isn't our core business. So when we do it, we want partners. And when we look at this next step for us, that's $300,000 to $400,000 out of our pocket. We don't have investors. We will go and raise capital internally within our friend base and family group once this is ready to go. But that $400,000 is money at risk today, and that's really what's going to get it to the finish line for you guys to opine as to whether or not, So if there's something about this project that you don't like, the color versus the whatever, the density, tell us. Because it's an impactful amount of money for us to spend to have a change or a deviation. And again, to Kathleen's point, this is a smaller project. Small deviations matter. And again, the capabilities for us to raise money and execute on this plan is based on a good, clean pro forma and, a reasonable expectation for profit. And unfortunately, I'd love to say that I was the majority equity investor. I am not. So, but no. So, thank you again. So much of your time has been with us trying to make this work, and the iterations have been months in the making. So, so yes, that's all I've got to say. And Steve, I don't know if you've got anything else.
Just a moment, we're trying to
Sorry, they
get,
just
so that
want-
we can get Alderperson Ruby back up on the
There we
screen.
go. No, that's fine, you can keep going.
But happy to field questions or criticisms or any thoughts.
Mr. Bruno?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate your closing statement about, how impactful that type of money is for a small organization. And take that to heart. The only thing, first of all, I think it does check a lot of boxes for me, pardon me. It does check a lot of boxes for me in terms of how we use TIF. I look at the grade of this site. Off the top of your head, do you know what for the building, what the drop-off in grade would be from one end to the other? Roughly? 6 feet, maybe?
It's a little bit more than that. I think
Yeah.
it's like 8 to 10 feet.
Yeah, it's probably about
8 to 10 feet. So my concern there, and this is hardly, this is not where we'll resolve this, is I wouldn't want that, a monolithic retaining wall right on State Street.
Yep. Yeah, so there's an existing retaining wall now just to the, what would it be? The west of the attorney's
Right.
office.
Yeah, that's
right?
kind of dug into the hill there.
It would, but absolutely, there would have to be some thoughtful consideration to how you make that not apparent. We want green space to be incorporated in here. We just don't want to see a delineation between what would be otherwise, manicured landscape to, boom, pavement, hardscape, et cetera. So I completely understand.
But that's, that's other meetings, so I don't need to worry about that. There's no particular, I wouldn't imagine, having been in your business, that there is any particular unique construction specifications for the retail space. Wish you, long life with the business, but it would be a flexible space that any other retailer could take over. I don't know if it'd be open span or not. Or
It would be
columns.
open. The composition of the Naperville store is vignettes, so they don't truly have demising walls. They're temporary walls that are built, usually not even up to the ceiling, to demonstrate product, to hang product. There's a vignette kitchen in our presentation too that is a functional kitchen. One of the things that he had mentioned with respect to the community, but it serves as an event space. Nonprofits, my wife does a variety of different children's organizations, and people meet in it because it actually has the feeling of someone's house. So they have, residential furniture in there, and again, a kitchen, a meeting area. So it's very frequently used for those types of circumstances. So no, if you were to take a walk through, I don't think you would see a single wall in Naperville's build out.
No,
Okay.
it's pretty universal.
Good.
But I mean, I think, outside of the building, the interior of the building, I mean, the location, though, may not be as universal as
Right.
for retail.
Yeah, with the grade, yeah.
As we've seen.
I asked that because as I'm sure Kathleen has mentioned to you, we don't make these investments for a business. We make these investments for the property. So, again.
One of the things that we, we didn't really talk a little, too much about is the stormwater management on this site. And I think that getting that cleaned up is going to be complicated, as we've discovered it over the last several months. But we do think that we've got a plan now for how we can get that resolved so that we can improve that area, the area's infrastructure for stormwater management. And it'll help the neighbors, it'll help this site, it'll be just good for the community.
And Kathleen, I might have a question for you, and you might not be able to answer it directly, but we'll be bringing in, contemporary utilities. Will say the electric, or will the utilities be able to support a more intensive use if, let's say, a restaurant wanted to go in there that needed lots of water and electric?
I think the idea is to upgrade to that level so that they have the flexibility, and that's adding some of the costs. I mean, you have all those residential, so you're updating pretty significant. And we can work on that further to make sure that the flexibility is there. I don't know what the threshold would be to trigger something different, but I know that in the review, that was discussed.
Thank you. So, it checks the boxes for me in terms of how we use TIF monies. I won't even opine on the exterior. There's lots of meetings, and other people are going to be looking at that before it gets to us. So I've fairly liked what you've presented so far, so, I'm of a mind to let this go to the next level. Thank you.
One quick thing on the spec retail. Our preference is complementary use. That could be a design company, that could be an architecture company. Whether or not that pans out, I don't know. It didn't pan out in Naperville. But medical office did. Medical office checked the box of minimal hours, minimal impact, incredible amount of investment in the space, in our particular space, over $600,000, and long lease term. We, as I can stand here today, are not going to consider restaurant use. It would be something of complementary impact. So I'm not putting a Starbucks there, not that I could, but restaurants, I think our lens is pretty tight. And I think that lens is what's truly complementary to the building, and not just because of Great Western and the use or anything, but I think it's complementary to the impact to the residential. And what I mean by residential is I mean the neighbors, right? They're not going to see a gun store. They're not going to see a head shop. That impacts our image. And again, the whole concept and the design of the building has to be consistent with what Great Western is and the reason why we're doing this. So.
Ms. Mayor?
Hi, my first note was drainage on the site, so you've covered that already. You said 2 affordable units?
2 affordable units, 1 per floor.
Okay. I mean, I think I'd like to see that codified somehow before I fully support, but that's great. I think that all of our developments, I like to see that. Will you be sprinkling the building?
Yes.
Okay. And I also think that it's a great proposal, and that site, I don't think we want to see a tall mid-rise, so this is a very nice scale for the city. I think that it's appropriate for Geneva. I'm sure that there are going to be oppositions, but to me, this seems like the smallest building that we could get for the commercial on the first floor. So I really appreciate that. And then, because you asked, I would just say, I think you did a really good job in Naperville with the look, and I don't think that there's anything impeding you from making that a brand kind of thing and bringing that same look here.
Yeah, and we, honestly, this is probably more so mine doing, but it's just the rendering capabilities today can go on forever. We could spend $30,000 on a rendering and make it look a lot better than we did. And trust me, the building will in reality look a lot better than it is. But it's a start, it's a concept, and I think you get the idea of what we're trying to do. So I'll ask for a little bit of faith on that, but the best foot will be this next level when we take that next step to produce, the true vision of this building and have it come to life.
Yeah, no, I think you did a great job in Naperville, so I have a lot of confidence in what you'll do here, and it looks great, and I would support moving this forward.
Thank you. I mean, we are like the perfect, if you're a business that generates sales tax, we're like the perfect neighbor for a residential neighborhood. We're like, we were like part of the neighborhood, so we don't cause, there's no issues, with our type of a business. So it's really, it's what I think the neighbors will support. Yeah.
Mr. Marks?
My questions are more, I like the concept. I do, I like it. I just have more questions, more on the TIF, as you can imagine. So the TIF has about 12 years remaining, correct?
Yes.
And we're tapping it out now, correct, with this, pretty much? I mean, is there going to be any money available for anything else in that TIF district now for the 12 years? Are we totally tapping it out? I mean, that was I couldn't get that out of the notes that we had in our packet.
So what I was saying is that the money that they would generate from the development would pay back the investment. So it's kind of a pay for itself type development, depending upon when it starts and if the assessor does what we believe he will do, what he said he will do. So that's what I said, but I'm not sure of your question.
Will we be able to, Will we have additional money at some point to do additional projects in this TIF? I almost read it from
We
the
will,
packet we
as,
won. Okay.
so other projects would come forward and generate increment. I mean, this has been a slow-going TIF. You know, our two opportunity sites in this TIF are Mill Race and the Bottling Works. The Bottling Works is presently being marketed as a redevelopment opportunity. Should a redevelopment opportunity come forward on any of those opportunity sites or any of the smaller sites, then those would generate revenue. But kind of as a status quo, we don't have a lot of money in the TIF. We need to stimulate investment to get more money in the TIF.
Yeah, so that's the next question. Where's it coming from? Because we're going to
Well,
have to cop up.
that's what we'll work on. We will work on, you have ability to borrow in the TIF. You can interfund borrow. You could utilize other funding mechanisms such as bonding, and that's something that we'll work on as we put together the redevelopment plan.
The only issue that I think concerns me is in acquisition costs. I think that keeps property at a value where people are just going to always think that the city's going to bail it out. And I don't know if will we find out how much of this is going to acquisition and other items at some point? Because, again, people hold property and think all of a sudden the city's going to make up the difference.
Right.
We're going to be writing a lot of checks in
Right.
TIF districts.
I
And that's a
agree.
concern for me. And it's not against your project, don't understand that. It's more of just a
And we've
concern
talked
for
about that at great
Okay.
degree. Because, we don't want to have a TIF that is just rewarding people's thoughts about what the property is. So it's
Right.
important for us to look at the fair market value and an appraisal. Then you have to weigh that there are certain parts of the acquisition cost that have some of those clearance expenses in. So we're going to work to separate those and work with the owner and to try to make him whole on those investments that right now is part of the acquisition cost. So that's a goal. The other thing is we need to work to determine whether this is, pay-as-you-go and what portions are pay-as-you-go and what portions will be upfront. So that all has to be worked on as the numbers are finalized and the deal gets hardened.
So what are we really doing tonight? Committing to that dollar amount for sure? Or, I mean, I don't want to make a vote that says, hey, we're going to go ahead with this, and then something come up and we back out, because that's not fair to you. So what are we really looking at tonight? I mean,
I think we're setting a framework to move forward. We're saying, okay, we like this proposed development at the scale and the size and the number of units that we're proposing.
that's easy.
We're acknowledging that these costs are there and that some of them are extraordinary costs. And we're acknowledging that the gap has been identified at this level. And we do feel comfortable having everybody work toward the redevelopment project at that level. And so that's what we're doing tonight. We're saying if everything gets panned out and, 2 months, 3 months from now, we come back with the redevelopment agreement for up to the 1.4 and everything else is showcased similar to what we saw tonight, that will be supported. Right? Stephanie, would you have anything to add?
Can I add?
Yeah.
Just a couple of thoughts on the TIF district. Any other property within the TIF district still has their increment left.
Right.
So that was your first question, that is there anything left to incentivize other developments around the area? And yes, any other property within that district could take advantage of that TIF. But also, what's I think notable, and Kathleen mentioned it, is that this TIF is aging. It's been here for a third of its life, and every year that goes by, it bleeds off, right? And so it's less and less of an incentive. It wasn't developed when it was at full incentive, right? So this isn't a slam dunk. And as time goes by, it gets less and less, of a doable piece of property for this. So we're really, we believe in it. It's complicated. It would have been done by now if it wasn't, but we believe in it. And we really believe it's a great site for a family-owned business. And so, that's why we're pursuing it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any additional, Mr. Kilberg?
I had a couple of questions. Your project in Naperville, was that a TIF?
It's not.
Okay.
It was
And
not. I will say, we did have participation with the city on a major water supply issue, which was old infrastructure suitable for residential development. And it was about a 3-block, 12-inch water main that we brought to the site. And the city did agree to participate in some of those costs involved because it was serving future development of the street. So outside of that, it was a minority investment, but it was measured on pretty small dollars, but it was significant to getting it done.
And it would appear that the project you're proposing in your Naperville project would be comparable in what would be the EAV on your Naperville property?
It would probably be north of 6.5 million.
Okay, so
right around there.
that was
Keeping in
constructed
mind,
in 18, you said?
that was delivered in 18. It went under construction in 16.
16, okay.
Putting in perspective, I think our, financing costs were probably a third less. I think from a general, if you looked at a mark-to-market of, hey, what are construction costs from here to there, we're probably looking closer to 30 to 40%. We're hopeful through this process, we can value engineer, and we also have a slight edge relative to finishes that I mentioned before. But that's the one thing that keeps me up at night is financing, because things change. Things change overnight.
We
And
started
costs.
this a year ago, so,
Yeah.
financing costs have doubled, materials and labor has gone up significantly. So this is becoming a thinner and thinner
Yeah.
deal. And
That's
it
what
was-
I'm thinking too, is where's the break point as far as interest on your money to underwrite this? I mean,
Well, I think the
it's a
challenges
lot
are.
different than what was a year ago.
Absolutely.
Right, it is.
Absolutely. And I think at this stage, it's hard to tell because candidly, it is changing. So interest rates, if you look at the forward curves and the assumptions, they should come down a bit. Labor should loosen. And value engineering coupled with maybe the ability to pass on costs through rent. And again, our objective isn't here to drive 20% returns. But I do have a very, very good in-tune feel for where I can, A, get this financed at a reasonable loan to value, and B, raise money.
And the truth is that as a real estate investment, and we do this stuff small, but
Sure.
we do this stuff, this probably isn't the best deal. But as a location for our family business, this is really the deal that we like. This is where we think this is a great spot to plant. And like I said, we've been here since 1988, and we need a home.
And you're looking for a 10-year investment in terms of a lease, so.
I like what you brought forward here. I guess my question is what is it that you like about that location? It's a busy intersection. It's going to continue to get busier with Chrissy there. You've got a fast food restaurant across the street with accessing issues. Am I missing something here? I mean, for retail, I just.
You're missing everything.
Okay.
It's right downtown. It's got the frontage. It's the entrance to the downtown. It's a great building to enter your downtown.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And so this
building,
is,
but the
this is our
location,
brand,
yeah.
right? And so that's what we wanted to play out.
The location is
Yeah.
close enough, but not in it.
Yeah.
If
And for residential, it's awesome, right? For people who want to live and be able to walk to downtown and dine
Sure.
and shop, it's just perfect for the residential. But for us, we're a destination business. Having that exposure, that frontage, but also that connection with the downtown business district, it's we just think it's a great match.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then we've
You're
got.
the expert.
We've got 12 units. We're not, 200 units. I don't have to sell this to But what I do think is it's the same experience of having personally leased every single unit in Naperville. I got the feedback. It's like, oh, this is different. It's boutique. It's small. It's finished like my single-family home that I sold, right? Or whatever it is, downsizing or people moving out from the city. It's the layouts, the finishes, and yeah, first of all, you're close to the train. You're still walkable, but you're not living above some bar that you may like, you know what I'm saying? So from my perspective, I personally like that. Really close, but not too close, because when I want to get out of the scene, I much prefer to walk as opposed to be forced in the scene living above it or too close to it. So that's what we view. We love the river component. I'm super excited to see if we can save a little bit of money and try to sneak out a river view. I don't know. We'd love to say a rooftop. May not work, but nonetheless, I think there's those components there that are going to be unique. But based on the product that's available here in the city today, I think we can be comparably priced, but be completely different inside.
You're familiar with the area, you've lived here, you've done business here for a long time, so I appreciate the fact that you're sold on it, and obviously you're very convinced that this is where you want to be, so good luck.
Thank you.
Mr. Swanson?
Thank you, Chairman. First off, I think we need to remove Alderman Kilberg from being the marketer for this site. So I like the concept as well. I think it would be a fantastic improvement to East State. Similar to Alderman Marks's comments, I'm a little uncomfortable including the acquisition price for the land in the computation of the 20% mix. I would be much more comfortable removing that for those reasons that we're kind of establishing a floor to all the property owners, and I would prefer that come out. The presentation said you were open to affordable housing. Like Alderman Mayer mentioned, I think that should be codified. Instead of saying you're open to it, let's move forward with an agreement to do such and remove the ambiguity. So I like the concept and appreciate all the work you've done so far. And I've been by the site in Naperville. It's fantastic looking. I would prefer the dark brick versus the white, but that's a future conversation. So I look forward to continuing these conversations. I think we need to fine tune the number, perhaps, removing the acquisition costs, but all in all, I like the project. So.
Well, I'll defer to Kathleen on that because I do think, I'm not the TIF expert here, but I think that is one of the core sources, just because the vertical improvements are not eligible for TIF financing. So I think that's the reason why some of that stuff got parked in the acquisition side.
Right. I think I heard what you're saying, and I think that we could work it through, that we could still fill the gap, but make sure that we're not putting the straight acquisition. There's a lot of things in the acquisition that have to do with site preparation and some of the carrying costs. So I think that we could change the wording in the resolution to meet that request, and also to make the affordable units more of a certainty than speculative. And we could make those changes should you advance the resolution tonight. When you see it again at City Council, we can have those changes.
I would appreciate that. And I think what we're seeing here is what we had is we saw the 7.5 million total cost in our packet on Friday and had no idea what was in it. And we didn't even see that until tonight. And then again, we only see, 5 items? So more information for me is better, and I would like to fine tune that, but I still think the concept is
If I would
good.
note, the resolution isn't the final agreement, so a lot of those terms you're going to see when they get much further, not much further, but further down the road. The resolution is just kind of saying, we're open to the concept, we understand what the expense will likely be for the public participation, but we know that we have to refine those details.
And the salient word there is up to, I believe, is
Right.
up to 1 point, so, okay.
And,
Thank-
even when it's more fully baked, there's not going to be a public revelation of the performa, because the developer's not going to have that out on the public domain. So, we can work, though, to make sure that we can meet the items that you mentioned. and then make sure that you have a fuller understanding of the project before the redevelopment agreement is presented at a later step.
I would appreciate that, so, thank you.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Like Josh mentioned earlier, just in close, this next step for us is a big one. It's a big investment. It's more than we can afford to lose, quite frankly. And if the council doesn't feel like this is a great fit or is uncomfortable with the numbers or something like that, we really would just like to know, because, we'll renew our lease and we'll probably just keep on churning it out where we're at until we can find a solution. But we really believe this is a great site for us, and we'd love to have your support. But this next step is a big one for us. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Any last? Oh, sorry. Ms. Ruby?
Thank you. I just wanted to reiterate, I agree with all my colleagues tonight have kind of taken the words out of my mouth, but I just wanted to reiterate the one point. If you could turn the 2 affordable units from a possibility into a reality, that would make this amazing. So we'll leave it at that. And I really am excited about it. I hope that it happens. I hope everything goes through. It sounds like a great proposal for that space. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else before we have a motion, we have a second? Yeah, I'm going to. Okay, Madam Recording Secretary, if you would take a roll call vote, please.
All right, Mayor?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Bruno?
Aye.
Ruby?
Ruby, aye.
Caven?
Aye.
Kilberg?
Aye.
Maladra?
Aye.
Marks?
Aye.
All right, that is 8 in the affirmative, 0 opposed. That brings us to item 4E, consider approval of the estimated, consider approval of the estimated tax levy for 2022 property taxes. Do I have such a motion? We'll give that to Marks, and seconded by Mayor.
Okay, so presented for your consideration is the estimate of the City of Geneva tax levy for 2022 based on the assessor's estimated EAV, the current year's maximum per PTEL, that's the property tax payers, I always forget, anyhow, it's 5%, plus the estimated value of new growth, which is estimated at 0.51% within the city. The Illinois state statutes require the city to approve a levy estimate at least 20 days prior to adoption and file tax levies no later than the last Tuesday in December. So we're bringing the estimate to you this evening. The final levy would come before the city council on December 5th. And we do have Finance Director Cruz with us to tell us what PTEL is and anything else you want to know. Property tax.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments? All right, we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 0. Brings us to item 5, public comment, new business. Anybody online? Anyone here? Anybody in the council? Mr. Marks?
Remind everybody to vote tomorrow.
Mr. Marks with a plug for everybody showing up tomorrow. All right, if there is no public comment, new business, that brings us to item 6, which is a closed session on the discussion of minutes or meetings lawfully closed, whether for purposes of approval by the body of the minutes or semi-annual review of the minutes pursuant to 5 ILCS 120-2 C21 as mandated by section 2.06, and to discuss the purchase or lease of real property for the use of the public body pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2C5. Do I have a motion? We'll give that one to Mayor, second to Marks. Roll call vote, please.
Bruno?
Aye.
Burkhart? Ruby?
Ruby, aye.
Caven?
Aye.
Kilberg?
Aye.
Kosarog? Maladra?
Aye.
Marks?
Aye.
Mayor? Aye. Swanson?
Aye.
Do we have a motion to return to open session? Mr. Marks?
I move that we return to open session.
Just got to, open
No,
session.
just the open, just to close. Do I have to read the whole thing or just, fine?
Seconded by
Open session.
Swanson.
You'll do that in open.
Roll call vote, please.
Marks?
Aye.
Mayor?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Bruno?
Aye.
Ruby?
Ruby, aye.
Caven?
Aye.
Kilberg?
Aye.
Maladra?
Aye.
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are back in open session. Item 7. Wait a minute. Okay, open session to approve certain closed session minutes and approve of the destruction of certain closed session audio recordings pursuant to 5 ILCS 120-2.06C. Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Kilberg makes the motion, Marks the second.
But then,
If, for a point of clarification, we actually need to read.
yeah, I
into
think
the
I need to
minutes.
read this now.
Yeah.
So you get that? So the motion is actually to release the full session of the February 10th, 2020 closed session meeting minutes, the full February 24th, 2020 closed session meeting minutes, partial of the April 20th, 2020 closed session meeting minutes, the remaining of September 7th, 2021 closed session meeting minutes, the full release of the November 15th, 2021 closed session minutes, the full release of the December 6th, 2021 closed session minutes, and the release of the full minutes of the March 21st, 2022 minutes, and then to destroy the tapes of the February 10th, 2020, February 24th, 2020, and April 20th, 2020. That is the motion. And if you want it repeated, forget it.
So we have a motion, is there a
Second.
second? All right, seconded by Alderman Bruno. No comments or questions prior to voting, anyone? If we could do a roll call vote again, please.
All right. Marks?
Aye.
Mayor? Sorry. Aye. Swanson?
Aye.
Bruno?
Aye.
Ruby?
Ruby, aye.
Caven?
Aye.
Kilberg?
Aye.
Maladra?
Aye.
All right, that is 8 affirmative, 0 negative. Does anybody have anything else that they want to discuss prior to making a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn by Alderman Marks. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none opposed. Thank you very much. We are done.